Hey, I am so stoked to be here in Arizona, but I'm really hoping you could tell me about some really challenging golf courses. I really want to test my skills.
Sure, Mr. Hausman. With over 300 courses in Arizona, I'm sure we can find a course to challenge your short game and your long game at the same time.
Well, that's great, but which one has the best windmill?
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with Glenn Hausman. I am absolutely thrilled, nay, delighted to have you all here today with me. But the real reason why I'm thrilled and delighted has nothing to do with the fact that I'm here in Arizona. I'm attending the lodging conference. It's been a great week. I've got a lot of good stuff going on, but I have once again with us Mr. Bruce Fort, who is live and in person with me instead of having to call in on the phone. How are you, sir?
Gee, I'm doing well. Happy hump day on this beautiful midday of the conference.
Yes, that's right.
And, of course, being here in Arizona gets everybody nice, calm, and cool and collected.
I don't know about cool. I think it's about 183 degrees outside.
Wow. Geez, that's what you got the pool for, Glenn, which we can do later.
That seems like a good idea, except that I've got a panel this afternoon that ends at 5 o'clock. And if you guys want to go back in the past from the time you're hearing this, join me at my panel 2 days before the show is released at 3:45 in the afternoon.
Well, Glenn, you do a very good job on those panels, which is why they keep asking you to do them. So.
Yes. Well, I'm doing 2 this year, and I had the opportunity this week to share one with you, which was a lot of fun.
Which was a bucket list item for me. It'd been a couple months, Glenn, since we'd been able to get up on stage together, and I had several people come up to me and said, "You guys sound like you really know what you're doing."
If they only knew.
If they only knew. And 21 years we've known each other now, Glenn. So, I mean, it's...
Quite some time.
Yeah, quite some time.
I can't believe our relationship is now old enough to drink, which is pretty symbolic.
It's absolutely old enough to drink, so we'll have to toast that a little bit later.
Yeah, so, we're here at the lodging conference, and I will tell you, speaking about the drinking, some horrible people tried to get me to do some sort of a cinnamon toast crunch shot with Fireball.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was not too good, but they were a client, and they were having a party in a villa, and it was very hard to get out of it, so I did the requisite, hey, and took a little sip and then just kind of hit it,
Right, you put it in the potted plant?
Yeah.
That sounds like you, Glenn.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it becomes very much a celebration when we come here to the lodging conference because it's probably the most casual investment conference in the industry, which is part of the allure of coming to the Biltmore is that it in a beautiful resort like this, no ties, no suits allowed. It gets people comfortable. And as everybody says, people are very approachable here. Right.
And that's always been my thing about this conference is how at other times of the year you might be awkward to walk up to a CEO of a major company. But here, it's just like, hey, man, how you doing?
Well, some of it's the layout. When you get into a lot of the other conferences, it's a vertical structure. So you got 4 or 5 different floors of activity. Here it's spread out all on the same floor, if you will, spread out amongst a pretty wide area. So you can really change where you're hanging out and who the people that you're talking to just by walking 100 feet down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good time to congratulate Harry Jaber. He's the conference organizer. I think he did a great job. Absolute record crowd here at this event of 1,800 people, I think I heard.
That is the number I heard, yes, and quite a few new first-timers as well as the conference continues to evolve. We really, here at the lodging conference, of course, Harry's doing a lot with the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Foundation, and he's got students here doing their first hotel conference. So it evolves all the way from the early 20s up to the mid 70s of people that are staying involved in the hotel business, and it's changed a lot too. I haven't done these conferences for more than 20 years now. I think the way that you approach these conferences and the preparation that you do has continued to evolve. Networking before you show up to network.
That's an interesting idea that you want to really get prepared to network. I mean, for me, I've always just because I'm in the media side of things, right? A lot of PR people reach out to me. I schedule the appointment, and that's really kind of the end of it. And I never really thought about it until this year as I've started my own company, in addition to the lots of fun that I have writing 2 columns a week for hotelmanagement.net. Follow me on @TravelingGlenn at Twitter in order to get those columns. And now that I'm starting this home business, I have to look at things differently. I have to network differently, and I have to be a little bit smarter. So it was fun that we did this panel yesterday where a lot of great advice came out on how to make sure that you're really selling yourself well to the hospitality industry.
You got to have targets. You got to have goals. You just, unfortunately, you can't just show up, put the tent up, and say, "I'm here. Come and talk to me." Preparing in advance for who you want to target, making sure that you get several of your target meetings set up in advance and times that are preferable. There's even during the day, there's good times to schedule a meeting and bad times to schedule a meeting.
I made a bad time to schedule a meeting, 7:30 this morning.
Yes, a bad mistake.
Yeah. It's so funny because 2 weeks ago when I set the meeting, it did seem like a good idea, and I'm like, this time it'll be different. I'll definitely be into a 7:30 a.m. meeting. Not so much, but thankfully I had a great meeting with 5 people that also regretted having a 7:30 meeting.
Yes, but you all gutted it out.
Yes.
So that's important.
All in the name of hospitality. It was great because I got to eat with a CEO of a emerging hotel group and a lot of the development people. So it was fun. It was educational. And to me, really solid relationship building and networking for me.
So I think that, that's a great point, Glenn. You always want to, there's always a new angle in the industry. There's always a new company with a new angle. And I enjoy those types of meetings the best because those companies have ravenous interest in growth. They have ravenous interest in trying to change the way hospitality is consumed. And typically those people are on the edge of innovation in a way that you can really learn a lot from those people. So knowing that we're at the end of the day all here to sell our services and our products and our solutions, targeting newcomers to the industry is a big part of what you got to do.
Yeah, and how would you go about figuring out who those newcomers in the industry are? And this is applicable for any industry. And I know, folks, that we appeal to a lot of you road warriors that are out there, and you may not be in, or chances are, if you're listening to this road warrior, you found us from the consumer angle. But you're probably out there having to network as well. So I'd like to treat some of these lessons in just general sort of a sense.
Well, the first thing I do is I always read the sponsors. Okay, the sponsors are the people who are shelling out the largest check to come. And oftentimes you'll have 3 to 4 to 5 representatives of a company that are sponsors. So you always want to review those logos. If you're not familiar, typically on most conference sites, you can just simply go to the conference page, click on the sponsors, and all those logos will hot link directly to the websites. So that can make it a lot easier. And so that's kind of like phase 1. Phase 2 is really kind of keeping up with your network because people change jobs. They do a lot. And, I had a good friend who I've worked with at a particular bedding company for many, many, many years, and I show up and his name tag's different.
Right.
I hadn't been caught up with him in a couple of months. But
yes, I know who you're talking about, and he seems absolutely delighted.
Yes. And so at the same time, it's a multiple stage process to really get good, healthy meetings and good, healthy connections. And sometimes at a conference like this, it's also valuable to know how much you should sell versus how much you should just relate and take the in-person time to really make a connection. Because the chances you're going to transact a contract here at the conference, unless you've teed it up in advance, are not good.
Right.
Okay? But you want to set the stage so that the communication that you do send when you're done sets the stage for that contract to be placed.
So, Brucey, how do you know if you should be focused more on business or you should be focused more on the relationship building aspect of it when you're setting these meetings or having impromptu conversations?
Well, the number one thing, the number one judge for that, Glenn, is what time is it?
Right.
Okay. Is it 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night? Okay. You're not transacting a lot of business at 8 o'clock at night. You're networking. You're socializing. You're trying to set the stage for the next day, fill your open slots, and your schedule's never closed. I guess that's an important point. Your schedule's never closed, okay? You always need to feel like I've still got openings, and I'm still prospecting, and I'm still looking to talk to more people. You always have to have a balance of people I'm trying to do more business with, people I am still trying to do the first business with, and my new targets and contacts out there in the industry. And as a sponsor at the Lodging Conference, it's always value add to review the conference attendee list. And of course, they have an app here at the Lodging Conference this year where you can communicate directly via email, but it's kind of a messaging app, if you will, and it shows up in your email. And I got 6 or 8 of those this year.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that was a little bit of proactivity on my part, but also I think those networking apps are really kind of a wave going forward. And I think also, just following the hashtag on Twitter for the conference, you can also get connected with some people doing it that way too. People that are actively tweeting about the conference and putting their relationship with the news they're hearing up there, and that's another way to get connected too.
So how do you figure out how many meetings you're going to have ahead of time? How do you go ahead and do those? And how much free time do you like to have in order to let moments organically happen?
I probably came to the Lodging Conference with about 6 set 60 minutes appointments that I knew that's when I needed to do that appointment. And there's always going to be somewhere you have a few people from the company that you're trying to work with that are going to come to the meeting and coordinating schedules. It's important to get those dots on the map, if you will. The impromptu, I think is key in and around the panels that you have. When you do a panel, just like yesterday, you're usually tied up for 20, 30 minutes after that. Kind of taking the momentum of that and working the room with it a little bit, I think is important. And I don't particularly care for a lot of scheduled meetings after 3 p.m. And
I find that I start to get a little, it's a little because I get a little bit off my game.
Yeah, you're a little tired, a little punchy. You need to go take a nap. Okay, and you do get punchy, Glenn. Okay.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'm innocent. I am delightful all the time.
So you got to be fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think after 3 o'clock should be impromptu time. I think that works pretty well for me as a rule of thumb. I will do a later meeting, but if I do a later meeting, I might leave a slot in the schedule to rest a little bit.
Right.
Because these are long days.
They're very long days.
You walked out of the room this morning at 7, 7:15, 7:30, and, most people won't really get back to relax until 11 p.m.
Right.
And that's a very, very long work day.
Yeah, that's what seems to happen. I mean, we got here on Sunday, immediately found some people. We were, out later than I'd planned to because we were enjoying the networking opportunities. Same thing with yesterday. And, today it's like day 3, and it's really hard to make it all work.
Yeah, and to be able to walk away with tangible facts about all the meetings that you did. Okay, and that's also another key, I think. You got to become a good note taker. Okay, because
that's a really, really, really smart advice, because how many times in my life have I said, oh, I'm definitely going to remember this, and then I don't.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Obviously, we all have notes programs on our phone. You don't want to carry around a lot of stuff. I personally think that once I write something down, whether I lose the piece of paper or not, I'm going to remember it.
Yeah, it locks it in the brain.
Yeah. So I like fun facts. I also like, just a strategy that I'll pick up 3 or 4 days later after the conference of how I want to follow up with that person. And, the communication of information is key in a timely manner. So you've really only got about a week after the conference ends to really lock in that follow-up. And you got to do it, because if you don't do it, you've wasted your time.
How long do you wait until you actually do the follow-up? Because you don't want to look, when you're in the dating scene, you have the 3-day rule where you don't want to call her too quickly. But is it the same in hospitality?
Not in this business. It's not. I think that if you have a great contact, I think you want to create some sort of immediacy to it. I like to say, I got to transmit that to you later today. okay, and then you go about this, thanks for the meeting, here's a transmission. You want to be sure in today's business, and I run into this a little bit, and I don't know if everybody does, but the spam filters that people put on their email these days, sometimes you're getting locked out.
Yeah.
And you need to know if you're getting locked out. I had a particular client that I signed a pretty good contract with, and then all of a sudden, for like 2 weeks, I didn't get a response from him, but I got an email from him requesting something, which I sent back. Turns out I was blocked on his email. And really just kind of by accident, because we go through so much change in equipment and change in software, this stuff happens. You got to make sure you got a clear line of communication. And I like to say, as a guy who sells to salespeople a lot, if you don't have their cell phone number, you don't have their attention.
Right. So that makes me wonder, how important is texting somebody these days when it comes to the business world and networking?
If I have a client that I'm working with and we're actively exchanging information, texting them is the way to get their attention. Email is passé in that scale. Email is for, I need to send you an attachment, or I need you to send you a more long-winded note. But if you're back and forth on different things, texting can become much, much more useful, because, as you know, when you're looking at the screen and it's sitting on the table and it's never far away from you, it lights up when you get a text message.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily light up when you have an email.
Right.
So it's a different model, and you know,
and people seem to want to respond to it quicker. There's a reflexiveness that you don't see with email.
Correct, and that's indicative of where we are today. I mean, I look at the opportunity with texting as something that you have to adapt to it, and people enjoy communicating more frequently with less information. I think that that's a trend going forward, too.
It's a great observation.
Nugget at a time, okay? Because that's all I can consume. Nuggets. I mean, I have a very good friend, Steve Tipton, who I've known for many, many years. He always comes up, so what's the pearl of the day, Bruce? You know, because I'll always have one. You know, the things I'm talking about today, whether they be translated from my database or they're things that are topical in the news. You know, you gotta have some of those, and those are your opening one-liners, if you will, to quote, kind of have an icebreaker type conversation.
And that's good, because you're trying to meet a lot of new people, and while it's great to connect with all the people that you already know, you want to try to establish new relationships, and having that strong opening one-liner that's relevant to the event that you're at, I think is a great way to give that person entree into speaking to you in a non-defensive kind of manner.
Sure. I mean, it's you know, cold calling isn't easy. Cold meeting isn't easy, okay? But you're not trying to solve the world's problems with the first time you introduce yourself to somebody. Really what you're trying to do is to just put a face to a name, make a connection, take a business card, and conclude and resolve that, geez, maybe we could work together.
Right.
You know, and kind of work in that way. So I really enjoy the lodging conference and the time of the year that it is, because people are in strategic planning right now. They're thinking about budgets for next year, whether they own a hotel or they sell products or they're in the franchise business. I think we had, 4 or 5 new brands this week, Glenn. Really kind of
right.
A lot of growth.
And I've heard of some more kind of off the record that will be forthcoming as well.
It's that time in the cycle. We can look back, you know, into 95 and 6 and 7. We had this wave of time too. And it's not too dissimilar from where we are today. And so these brands, a lot of them carry this title of soft brand or you know, not...
Right. Not very stringent in terms of the requirements to be considered under that particular brand name.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, soft branding has really changed as a result of the way we book hotel rooms these days, Glenn. There's still a lot of value in being, you know, a company the size of Marriott and Hilton, but the little guys can compete. And the little guys who, you know, have a decent-sized reservation system who is taking in things directly through the GDS, I mean, they can compete. You know, Magnuson's a good example of that, Preferred Hotels and Resorts. You know, those boutique-sized companies that are a collection of independent hotels are becoming more and more and more popular.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in today's day and age as well. I love the idea of the soft brands for boutique owners and stuff. It's kind of like a best of both worlds scenario. They get to tap into that large membership database while also retaining some semblance of solidarity.
Yep. Well, in the long run, Glenn, many of those wither away over time. Not all of them survive. Okay, we'll go down the cycle at some point here. We won't continue going up. Never can continue to go up. So eventually, you'll have some of those that will fade away, if you will. Okay, and some that will survive and thrive. But you probably 10 years ago you wouldn't have said that a soft brand would work inside of a company like Hilton or Marriott. They never do that, but they look at it as a way to get further distribution in a given city where many of their standard brands are already represented and fully vetted.
Right, and I think that was really the derivation of the entire creation of Choice's brand, the Ascend Collection, which was the first one of those. They realized that they were getting so many more reservation inquiries than rooms that they had, and this was a really great way to go ahead and create that opportunity for the people that are calling to actually get a room in the city.
Sure, and I mean, New York doesn't dominate the landscape of the lodging industry, but it's certainly a heavily talked about market. It obviously is the highest rate market in the United States. It also has not the most hotel rooms, but has some of the most expensive hotel rooms in the United States. And you consider the challenge of just the Marriott-Starwood merger, they're going to have 85 locations in Manhattan.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, it's crazy. Okay, and how can that possibly work? Okay, and we're going to learn a lot about how the Marriott and Starwood owners will stay together, how the company will handle some of this adversity, because it won't be as evident right now, but as the market begins to slip a little bit, it will become more and more evident.
Yeah, that's going to be a story that we're going to have to be tracking over the next year or so.
We definitely will be tracking. Some more stories that we're tracking. I mean, we had another merger announcement this week with Red Lion Hotels purchasing Vantage.
Yep, we talked about that. Dave Eisen and myself talked about that, so you can check out that show from a couple of weeks ago. We really get into that a lot more.
Yeah, and that's probably more to come. I mean, I would certainly think that portfolio transactions will likely pick up. I think that company mergers will likely pick up. I think there's a few companies that would like to expand a little bit. And, that's a direct result of 6 years of operating performance growth. And it's a direct result of the bank account balance looks pretty good. So we ought to invest some of that.
Right. The mergers we're seeing are not just the big ones, but the smaller companies as well, kind of like Benchmark and Gemstone. They both own and operate great boutique type properties, Destination and Commune.
Yep.
So the list goes on and on and on with a lot of companies that the consumers might not regularly be tuned into, but are very very widely known within our little universe.
And like I said, it will continue to happen, and mostly because the federal government's lending rate continues to be low, and I think the expectation is that probably would have gone up at some point this year. But
my expectation, I've been saying since last year at this time, there's no way there's going to be any real significant rise until after the election. December, there will be one.
Yeah. So you might have been sitting on that, but I think the general consensus is that there would have been a rate tick up by now, and there hasn't been. And that's not a negative. I mean, gas continues to remain cheap. You continue to be able to borrow money cheap. It's really been quite an unprecedented time. And now people are saying December there will be a rate rise. I would tell you it will matter who wins the presidency, whether there will be or not. So,
yeah. And we will not
still be a trigger.
We will not talk about politics because
we certainly don't need to. I don't have any need to talk about politics. I think there's plenty of paper copy to read on that whenever you'd like. Yep. I'm not sure that there's an impact one way or the other for the hotel business. I think the impact would be general economic impact and and whether this person commands the respect as the commander-in-chief of the United States.
Right.
And I think there'd be some question as to whether both of them could maintain that respect.
Well, we're gonna find out. Any final thoughts today, Bruce, before we wrap up?
No, Glenn, other than that probably the next time I see you, it will be in New York.
Yep, for BDNY and the Hotel Experience Show and AHLA Fall Conference. Yep.
Yeah, I'm headed off to Asia for a couple of weeks and, trying to do more work over there. And, of course, you can follow Lodging Econometrics at Lodging Econometric on Twitter. You also can join our LinkedIn page. You're more than welcome to do that. We do distribute all of our content through that. My personal Twitter handle is BFINH at the Twitter, and I think that the fall, Glenn, will reveal a lot of answers that we've all been waiting to hear about.
Well, I can't wait to hear about it. And Bruce, if there's something else that you can't wait to hear about, namely going behind the scenes with La Quinta. I got a conversation with those guys coming up. They're a brand new COO, and Raj Trivedi, who runs all of the franchising for them and development. He has been a good source of business for them. Man, that guy chugs out deals after deals after deals.
Deals and deals and deals. So.
All right. Love myself some La Quinta. Love myself some Bruce Ford, and I love you guys for listening. But I would really, really love you if you gave me 5 stars on iTunes and spread the love. Turn on your friends, turn on your families, and like I say, stop any random person on the street. Tell them to listen to the No Vacancy podcast. Thank you for listening, guys, and I'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Get a $50 Best Western gift card when you stay 2 separate times. Plus, enjoy breakfast and free high-speed internet. Rewards members get even more when you book direct at bestwestern.com. Visit bestwestern.com for terms and conditions. Each Best Western branded hotel is independently owned and operated.
Talking and do that sort of thing. Because, we're at the Arizona Biltmore, and it's nice that they've redone this place and hanging out in a suite. And one of the things I really like to do is get a chance to talk to executives that I respect and admire, and maybe one day I'll get to do that. But for today, I'm with some of my friends at La Quinta, John Cantele, who I've never had a chance to meet. Is the EVP and COO, and one of my favorite folks, Raj Trivedi, who's been spearheading franchising there, I think, ever since, you were been part of the franchise team ever since it started, since its inception. And as a guy that loves this business and is passionate about this business, I've really enjoyed seeing the growth of the company and where it's gone and seeing your different prototypes and stuff. And I thought it'd be fun today just to get a general sense of not only where your company is at, but how you think the overall world of hospitality is doing. And I don't want to just talk about the boring stuff where it's like, we think it's going to be RevPAR up 1.2%, that kind of stuff. But, actual things that might be interesting to people, because one of the things I find is I get very bored just talking about those regular numbers. And, Raj, you don't like it when I'm bored. Yeah, John, you want to take it away with
Sure.
with no question officially at you?
Yeah.
I just like
one.
to throw it out there. But when did you come aboard with La Quinta?
Sure. So I'm exactly at my 5-month mark.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Is that an anniversary? I don't know.
No, I think it's deserving. I mean, if paper's 1 year, maybe we could do like a business card or something like that.
Technically, you're allowed to celebrate anniversary every month.
Celebrate one every month.
Yeah.
No, I've been here about 5 months.
Right.
And it's been a really fruitful, if you will, 5 months so far. Probably the best part for me was whenever you come to something new, you never know exactly what you're walking into. You have an idea, but it's been an extremely easy group and company to integrate into. Everybody's been very welcoming, and it's been fun.
And that's one of the things I've always liked about La Quinta.
What do you mean, why is that? We are cool people.
Well, yes, right. Which is why I'm sitting here and not a part of La Quinta. But maybe one day I'll get my cool badge and get a job with you guys. But until then, I'll be sitting here fantasizing about it. But you know what? I get what an EVP COO does, but maybe you could explain a little bit more about what your day-to-day life is.
Sure. Frankly, when I came in, the first probably 45, 60 days, pick it, was spent mainly just learning my way around, meeting the people in Dallas, going to the hotels, meeting the general managers, understanding the assets a little, getting to know some of the markets and some of the nuances. So really for the first, I would say 3 or 4 months, my focus was just kind of learning it. And that is...
So the most important question then, you've been 3 or 4 months learning in Dallas. Where's your favorite place to get barbecue at this point?
Oh, you know what? In Dallas, that's easy. It's called the Feed Mill. Is that right? Feed House, Feed Mill?
It's called Feed Store.
Feed Store.
Feed Store.
Yes.
It's so good I don't even know the name of it.
Right. So I want to thank you all for listening to Barbecue Chat with Glenn. But all right, back to what you actually do.
What I actually
Sorry.
do. So right now, well, past just kind of understanding the business. So now it's like, okay, so I come in, I'm the new guy. Clearly there's an expectation that once I do, kind of learn my way around that, I'll be able to sit back and at some level be able to collaborate with the group on a strategy that can allow us to, best position ourselves to move forward. And as a result of that, in the most recent month, a lot of our time as a team has been spent on a realignment effort. And the main thing we did was we broke the 331 managed hotels into 2 separate divisions, one being the inns and suites and one being the inns, and creating a separation there so we can have better visibility into the business, make better decisions as it relates to engagement, as it relates to product, as it relates to people, et cetera. So that's been the most recent focus. Past that now, it's like, wow, we're building a new team, and guess what? It's budget season. It's like I woke up and it's Groundhog Day again. I'm in budget season. So in a nutshell, that's my 5 months.
Yeah, that sounds great and interesting. But Raj, I find it interesting that he's talking about refining things, and you guys have been doing that for years. So it's not an issue of trying to get better and there's a finish line. It's a matter, I think, of constantly refining and moving forward and staying up on the trends. How's your philosophy play into making that actually enabled?
I think without a doubt, you have to be aware of what's going on around you, what's happening in the industry, what is keeping you competitive, what will you need to do to be competitive and remain competitive, how your partners are viewing you, how your partners are viewing your services, how competitive brands are changing their landscape. New brands are being introduced. You have to be aware of all of these changes that are taking place. However, you also don't want to walk away from the fundamentals. What has made you successful is relationship. We are in the business of relationship. Whether you look at a guest that comes to your hotel or whether you look at a franchisee that is doing business with you, ultimately it's a trust factor. Ultimately, it's a relationship factor that comes into picture. And if you can build that trust and relationship with a guest and a franchisee, that creates a repeat business, and that's what makes you successful.
Right, so that makes sense, but it's a tricky scenario because I think the sense of disruption and change is continuing to speed up over time, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to always be ahead, and you have to be cognizant of not making too much change because then that'll ruin your relationship with the franchisee. So how do you guys balance all of that to stay as forward as possible, as exciting for the consumer without making it difficult for your franchisees and the hotels that you own to keep up?
Change is inevitable. I think if you look at history of our industry, change has always been a part of our industry. In some cases, we are actually behind other industries in changes. So sometime changes that come to our industry, people have already experienced those changes in other parts of their life. Change, when it comes to enhancing their experience, enhancing and providing tool to your employee to do their job better, they always welcome it. You want to make sure that the change you're bringing into the system, you want to make sure the change that you're bringing into facility, amenity, or programs is attuned to provide better care, better services, better experience to your guest. And you also need to have some differentiating point. As a brand, if you can differentiate yourself from the other brand and create some unique aspect of experience, that's what makes you successful.
But how do you do that in a world that the hospitality industry is so good and so sophisticated and everybody does such a great job that it's not an easy thing to differentiate yourself? And then you got the complication of as soon as you find a differentiating factor, everybody else kind of jumps on board with that. So how do you maneuver that horrible maze?
I think you don't need to constantly search for something new. As easy as providing the best services at all of your hotel when a guest walks in. That's a differentiating point. As easy as making sure that you're taking good care of your loyal guests, that's a differentiating point. As easy as providing access to your franchise partner, to you, to the top level of the brand and the company, and responding to their needs within 24 hours is a differentiating point. So it is, again, a lot of these differentiating points are related to basics. Certainly you look at innovation, certainly look at what other things needs to happen. Technology changes, innovations comes into picture, the changes that you make that enhances the experience of the guest. You pay attention to those things, but ultimately there are a lot of things that you do fundamentally solid and strong that can provide you that uniqueness and a differentiating point that can make you highly successful.
That makes sense. So I got to throw this over to you, John. Since you're 5 months in, what was it that made La Quinta attractive for you to want to take on this new opportunity?
Well, great question. I think one of the things that was attractive was it's one brand. It's a big brand. It had the two dimensions, if you will, of an established franchise group, an established group of owned and managed hotels. Frankly, at Hyatt, and Raj has heard me say this ad nauseum, I loved every minute I was at Hyatt.
Right, and you worked at Hyatt previous.
I was there 5 years before, almost 5 years before I came here, and it was I was the global head of the Select Hotel, so Hyatt Place and Hyatt House, and that was a very focused group. Hyatt's this big, full service. They have all these different brands, but there was a micro focus internally on those two brands. I come here, it was really attractive to come and run hotels again because Hyatt Place and Hyatt House had become mostly franchise. We sold off a lot of the assets. So the job was more franchise-centric, and I like to operate hotels. I think it's what I do best, and it's kind of been my life's work, if you will. So the opportunity to be a part of one brand with that focus that comes with it, but to be able to take the 331 now hotels that spread these different inns and suites and everything in between, and to try to make that into something special and to get it to the next level was really appealing. I don't know that this opportunity exists anywhere else in the industry.
Yeah, it's a very interesting opportunity, and one of the things that I think is you guys are sticking with the single brand strategy. And we're in a world where I keep hearing bigger is better, right? We just saw, as we're taping this last week, the Marriott Starwood deal closed. Yep. Redline just bought Vantage. But yet you guys there are a beacon of hope for not combining with other people. Raj, tell me a little bit more about that philosophy and how you can compete effectively in a world where everybody's got 500 brands.
I will tell you this, that today's day and age, you can compete as a single brand as effectively as other brands. Why have we continued to remain single brand? Because we still believe we have a lot to accomplish within this brand. We still have a lot of opportunity to grow our distribution within the United States and outside of the United States. We have nearly 40% of Star Trek markets where we don't have presence. Markets where we have presence, we can actually go ahead and enhance our number of properties within those markets as well. When it comes to our company-owned assets, we are creating a synergy, and as John just explained to you, reorganizing the entire division, we are creating a division for Inn and Suites and the Inn product that will provide consistency and experience at our Inn and Suites. How we have been successful as a single brand, we always focused on two things. One is to remain owner-operator along with the brand. So what we preach to our franchisee or what we ask them to do, we do it ourselves, and we lead by example. Two, we always focused on return on investment for our franchise partner. We wanted to make sure that we stay close in contact with them. We wanted to make sure that they're part of our progress. They're part of our team to make us better with the experience that they have with the other brand. Ultimately, you could be successful as 10, 100, 20 brand company. You could be successful as a single brand company, provided you are giving right focus and attention to your two key element, that is your guest, that is your internal customer, employees, and franchise partners. More importantly, you need to make sure that you offer consistency in product, consistency in experience when the guests come to your hotel, and provide opportunity for your guests to engage more effectively with you and your brand, and that's what makes you successful.
That's pretty tricky, and I like how the conversation is kind of going back and forth. But John, this takes me to an operations question.
Yep.
I think Raj really stated a great case. But with the changing nature of the consumer and the fact that there is so much technology in there, the industry, I feel, runs a risk of not being able to make those important human connections with the guest. And I think that is that little bit that's going to take everybody over the edge. So what do you think about on a day-to-day basis to make sure that technology winds up being an enabler and not a detractor from relationships?
Yeah, no, great question. I think, a couple things. I'll build up to the answer. One thing I would tell you, my background prior to Hyatt was mostly with independent brands. And what I do know is, consolidation aside, you can be really, really successful as an independent brand, as a single brand, if you focus on each market. Because when I look at our challenges ahead, most of our challenges are not going to be solved 331 times the same way. They're all solved one way. So whether it's Net Promoter Score, it can be fixed at the hotel level. If it's a revenue issue, there's a lot they can do at the hotel at the hotel level. So having strong general managers who really get it, you're talking 100, 125, 150 rooms. You can be successful at the local market level regardless of what's happening around you. In terms of technology, and you hit on something that's really important, and that's this whole authentic engagement piece is such a big deal. Getting away with scripts, it's so ironic. We hire people, we pay them to sit at the front desk and make sure the first thing you ask them is their name. The second thing is, if they're a returns member. The third thing is the purpose of their stay, and it's a very programmed experience. And then we wonder why we have high turnover. It's
true. It's funny you should say that, because it's so programmed. Like, I'll get there and I'll immediately give them my ID, my credit card, and tell them I'm a rewards member, and they reflexively ask for your ID and card and reward information, no matter what.
And people they understand authentic, and people like to be authentic. And really, it's kind of you have to train people to be authentic. You can't say, okay, no more scripts so anything goes. It's train, improvise. And I think that's really important. You have to find people that are comfortable in that zone, because then you get that little bit extra you don't get otherwise. So I think that's a really important element, is enabling our people to be themselves, encouraging them to actively and authentically engage with our guests. And the technology piece is supposed to support that. It's not supposed to be the other way around. When you look at La Quinta, on the one hand, we could sit here and spend endless dollars on our, any kind of technology innovation you want. Even you could say, just to catch up to some of the other brands, we don't have the money to invest that Hilton does or that Marriott does. I don't even think about that. That's not what we focus on. If somebody walked into my office right now and said, hey, here's $10 million, how do you want to spend it? I can tell you right now, it wouldn't be on a new property management system. It wouldn't be on a new revenue management system. That's not the first place I would go. I would invest in people, and I would invest in training, and I would invest in leadership.
Right. Well, that's disappointing to me, because I was going to try to sell you on a new property management system and revenue management system at the end of this call.
I just got hit up on the way in. By the way. I'm a gentleman introduced.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So, I feel that, Raj, from your earlier days when I feel like you still have that scrappy company feel about you, right? And that because you don't have the luxurious budgets that some of the big three companies do, it forces you, I guess, down that path towards innovation in an interesting way.
I think it gives you an edge. One of my colleagues gives an analogy of a 160-pound linebacker. A 160-pound linebacker in a line can win by hitting hard. So when we started this franchise program 16 years ago, and when we were not being mentioned among the big brands, we took it personally. We wanted to make sure that we prove it to our franchise partners, and we want to make sure that we put extra efforts in meeting and exceeding their expectations. Same thing happens at the property level, that we put an extra effort to win that street corner. It's a street corner business, one street corner at a time. And that's the mentality that we have. We are going to be successful provided every single franchise partner that we bring in is successful. We're going to put our best efforts to provide them resources and bring successes to their individual hotel. And that continues even today. After having 600 plus franchise properties open and have nearly 240 in pipeline, our mentality, our philosophy, and our approach is the same when we started our franchise the first day. And that's what keeps us going. That's the edge that we have, that, you know what, we are not as big as some of the other peoples, but we could be big in our efforts. We could be big in our resources. We could be big in our support. We could be big in our access. We could be big in local street market area where we can find the edge to win the customer and market share. And that's what we have done.
You know, it's so funny how we're sitting here talking about how small you are, but you're not small at all, approaching 1,000 properties overall.
Not only that, if you look at our numbers, our revenue or EBITDA, company is a pretty large company, you know, in comparison to many other company. Yes, but the mentality is that number of brands determine the size of the company. And in our case, we own nearly 330 plus hotels today, and that changes the perspective.
Yeah, it really does, and I find this fascinating that, you know, everybody is going that one way, and I keep coming back to it, and you guys are going distinctly the other way, and you seem really comfortable with that type of thing. I guess it provides you laser light focus. I always wonder how the CEOs of companies that have all of these brands could actually pay attention to them. And one of my dreams has always been to be on stage with them and go, name your brands, go. And then to see if they can name all of those brands, because I find that they all start to become muddied and they don't really have an understanding. And I mean, no offense to any of my, you know, big brand friends there, but the fact is, if you can just concentrate on what you do best, I think in the end you're going to be more productive with less.
I want to compliment our industry colleagues too. They have been highly successful. The companies that have multiple brands, they have done a fantastic job. Absolutely. As well. We, in our case, certainly as a single brand, have continued to do what we need to do to remain focused on fundamentals and be successful. And I'm sure they have their own plans. I can't speak on their behalf.
Right.
However,
feel free if you'd like to.
However, what we know is what we control. Yeah. We control our brand. We control our action. We control our resources. We control what we offer to our operators and our franchise partners. And that's where we need to make sure that we provide best of the best in hiring, onto training, onto resources, onto programs, and continue our journey.
And one of the things that I love about being in this industry is everybody is so friendly with each other. I mean, you're complimenting the competition there. And the fact is that this is a very incestuous business. You worked at Hyatt. Everybody's worked at all the different companies before this. And what I love most is you'll go up to one of your, you know, what you would say is one of your biggest competitors, and you know this guy or girl very, very well, and you give them a big hug, and, you know, it's great. At the end of the day, you're competitors, but we're all seen to be friends and in it together. And I don't see that in other industries where we all realize that we could all be successful. That's pretty cool.
Well, one thing we always need to realize, what makes you better is your competitor.
Right.
Yeah. I was at a seminar not long ago, at a hotel seminar 6 months ago, and somebody sneezed, and there was like 25 people in the room, and in unison, 24 people said, "God bless you." And the presenter started laughing. He said, "I've never had this happen before."
Right.
It's a hotel. It's a hotel people. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is interesting. And I always love hanging out with hotel people and going through the hotel. And even if they're not at their hotel and they see like a piece of paper on the ground, they'll just instinctively pick it up and put it in their pocket.
Well, I think the other element of is this, that collectively as an industry, for us staying together, we can accomplish a lot more for all of us. Mm-hmm. There are, as you heard this morning, AHNLA initiative, AHOA initiatives, working with government, many government issues. All of these things can happen provided we are unanimously together. And that's why, and we are a small industry when it comes to number of people. Not in revenue and not in other areas, right. But when it comes to number of people, we are a small industry. And what makes us successful, that ultimately we are protecting our collective best
In
interest.
so many ways, we have the same challenges, whether it's distribution or cost of acquisition, or you could go more granular and say finding good people and keeping people. I was at a dinner last night with a bunch of hotel colleagues, and there's this gentleman by the name of Dewey Weaver, who's the owner of Intermountain. This guy, I've known him for some time. He takes such good care of his people, you can't even believe. He pays for all their insurance, everything, and he's one of the world's good guys. And I asked him how it was going, and he said, great, except I can't find enough good general managers. And my comment to him was, I said, Dewey, all you got to do is let me know how many you need. I have people that love to come work for you. And even at that level, small business, not small, but smaller, not a major brand, he can't find good people.
I think
it's
that's
a real
really
challenge.
I think that is going to be the biggest problem.
Absolutely.
We sit here and we talk about how great it is that all these new projects are being developed,
Yeah.
and there's so many new hotels, but we're not spending enough time focusing on training the right people and creating that path, getting folks to understand that this is a good, strong, viable career.
No doubt.
And we wonder why we need all these H-2B visas and stuff for seasonal help,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and all of that. And how do you then go out there and try to promote the hospitality industry to get folks to come in? And I mean, besides supporting like the HLA's Educational Foundation and scholarship programs, just to make this because I don't think anyone ever said growing up, I want to be a hotel general manager, right? Astronauts and firemen get all the
I think
glory
most of
there.
the people in hotel industry are accidental hotelier.
Right.
Yeah, and then they don't leave. Well, here's a couple things on that point because it's such an important spot. When I look, you can talk innovation all you want in our industry. There's no innovation, maybe I'll live to eat my words. There's no innovation that's going to allow us to, do without housekeepers or without people at the front, whether it's at the front desk, but it's so crucial to the experience. So we have to figure out a better way. We don't sit around going, how can we cut labor out by getting rid of people? We're trying to figure out how we can find people, keep them, and have them want to be part of what we're doing long term. And it's the long game, really. But here's what I would tell you. I go back to my earlier comment. You say, how do we find and keep good people? You hire great general managers who really care about their people. Now, we have to support that. We have to have the right benefits and the right, structure and culture and everything. But at the general manager level, I had an RVP say to me, I'm down, he had 25 hotels. And he said, I'm looking for 58 people.
Holy cow.
And I said, you're looking for 58 people, or you have 25 general managers that are each looking for 2? Let's be honest here. You're not looking for 58 people. Have your general manager own it. Have your general manager make it important. And you'll find out. They'll go to a restaurant. They'll sit down and have dinner and say to the waiter or waitress, you know what, I think you'd be great in our business. I think you could have I don't have a great job for you. I think you could have a great career in the hospitality business. Would you be interested in coming to talk to me? That's how you build teams in this day and age, for better or for worse. If you can't do that, you're not going to be successful.
That's a very interesting point of view.
I think community outreach is
Yeah.
necessary. We do a good job on a national level. We do a good job through HNLA Education Foundation and whatnot. However, hotel owners, brand owners need to reach out to their community colleges, need to reach out to their high schools and expose people to our industry. In fact, I did something unique last couple of years in a row. I invited my son's school to a field trip to one of the hotel.
That's neat.
So that they can experience all aspect of it. And ironically, so many children talk about it even today. 2 years ago, they have gone to a hotel. So if we build rapport, if we build relationship, if we expose people to our industry, and they see that there are not only opportunity financially, but there are career opportunities that could be lifelong, people will join us. And I think we need to put concentrated efforts in community within your hotel or area to reach out and build rapport.
It's an interesting dichotomy to me because we've really moved to a service economy in this country, yet there seems to be a labor shortfall when it comes to that service economy aspect.
What's interesting about that is when I get in front of our groups, our GM teams, our various teams, what have you, new hire training classes I always try to get in front of, I always have this conversation and comparison about this shared economy and what's happening. And I always tell 2 stories, one about Airbnb and the other about Uber. And all you got to do is look at the Airbnb and why they're successful, and it all has to do with that, how they engage with the guests. So, first thing I say to our general managers, who here is familiar with Airbnb? And about half the hands go up, maybe less. Who's ever stayed at Airbnb? Who's ever used it? Maybe no hands go up. and they start telling about the experience. So if I own a condo and I put it out in the inventory, and you come and you stay with me, that experience is very personal. You come to my place, I bring you in, I say, hey Glenn, let me show you around, and here's a great bed, the master bedroom's got a great view, and I saw in your profile you like water, but I put some water, but I also put some Pellegrino and some good snacks in here for you, some fruit, and let me show you around a little bit. And by the way, there's a couple of great restaurants in the area. My favorite is the Italian up the street. I gave the concierge your name. I told him you might be coming by, and if you do, he's going to give you my favorite table, which is up overlooking, the city. I hope you have a great stay. Some version of that is what happens at most or many Airbnb exchanges. If you simply translate it, it's not like the secret sauce, but if you simply translate that version of a quote-unquote check-in to a hotel, and you give your people the discretion to be authentic and to do that, every check-in's a little different, but it's personalized to you. Just think how different that experience is. And I could go on and on about colleagues and when you hire people, how you onboard people. There's so many things we can do that just, there's cues everywhere. But if all we do is look at what's happening inside our business, we're never going to see the cues, because the cues aren't necessarily right in our industry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Raj, you want to add to that? Or
No.
Yeah, he
John did a
pretty
great
much
job.
nailed that one.
In fact, I'll
Can
tell
I
you.
go now?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I never had an opportunity to talk to you about John, but
Yeah.
we are delighted, and I absolutely feel that we are very lucky to have him as a part of our family and team. His addition has added tremendous value to our executive team, and his vision certainly is going to take us, our company, collectively to the next step.
All right, so
Thank you,
to wrap up then, what's that next step?
So the next step, here's the next step. We spoke of the realignment and creating two separate divisions so that we can have better visibility into what's happening with both, in effect, both brands, if you will, even though they're one brand, two separate distinctly managed groups. What we're really focused on now is taking the inns and suites, of which we've renovated, I believe, 24 in Q1 and Q2 this year. We're going to start on another group of 50 here in November. By the time we're here next year, we'll have renovated, in effect, 74 hotels in the last 12 months, 15 months. And the idea is to renovate and reposition, and to take those hotels from maybe mid-scale to upper mid-scale, create different comp sets, put salespeople into the markets, start to create a new guest profile. Not that we won't continue to have many of our same guests, but we want to go more after some of the higher-end corporate clients who really don't know that much about La Quinta, just like I didn't, who can walk in from a top account or a global account, walk in and go, wow, I had no idea that's what La Quinta was like. And you know what? At $120 rather than $90, this is a great value. Raj talked about engaging with our guests. All these points of differentiation, different amenities, different breakfast, getting them to think of us in the same category as maybe they might Hampton Inns and Fairfields and Holiday Inn Expresses. So that's what's next for us, is trying to reposition these assets that we're renovating into the upper mid-scale category. That's what I'm going to be focused on for the next 6 months.
Excellent. And Raj, any final thoughts from you, sir?
Next step, as a brand, we want to continue to grow in the markets where we are not. We want to make sure that we also offer consistency and experience on franchise side, the product that don't fit our today's and tomorrow's profile. Potentially, they will not be a part of La Quinta. Add new hotels in those markets and open pipeline, as we have 238 in pipeline. Expedite and open as many as we can and as quickly as we can.
So you think you'll be able to keep the good times rolling for a number of years? Because we're at the peak and everybody loves to talk about the bad times.
Maybe we're not at the peak.
I believe what I heard.
Yeah.
I believe what I heard this morning resonates because as you saw, consumer spending's gone up. Everyone's wealth has gone up. I think we are going to be steady Eddie. The growth will be, as we have seen, not at a very high level, not at a very low level, moderate to medium growth, and continue for a long time to come.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for being here. Got Raj Trivedi, John Cantele. It was a great time talking with you guys, and I want to thank you all for listening. Be sure to reach me online, Glenn@rouse.media, or on Twitter @travelingglenn. I don't really love that name, but I picked it spontaneously in
work on it.
2009, and I'm kind of stuck with
That's
it.
pretty
John,
catchy.
So. Yeah, you think? I don't know. It's too long because if I cut down the characters, I'd be able to complain more about stuff. And that's really what my goal is. Yeah,
That's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I will be back next week unless I decide to go get a general manager job with these guys at La Quinta.
You're always welcome.
Thank you.
Always
Bye-bye.
welcome.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.